Now, there are calls to strip Baroness Michelle Mone of her peerage after she admitted to lying over her links to a PPE firm.
Yeah, when asked about the scandal today, Rishi Sunak said the government was taking the matter very seriously and was pursuing legal action against the company. But the disgraced peer has defended her actions, insisting it wasn't a crime.
Saying to the press, I'm not involved to protect my family, can I just make this clear? It's not a crime. The press have got nothing to do with my family. I was protecting my family. And I think people will realise that in the press attacks that I have gone through since I walked into the House of Lords. I was a very successful individual businesswoman, and since I walked into the House of Lords, it's been a nightmare for my family. So that's not a crime to say to the press, to tell, you know, the press what I did. That's not a crime.
Well, former Conservative Party aide Leon Emirali is still with us, and Deputy Leader of Reform UK Ben Habib. Leon, she's saying it's not a crime. I suppose the NCA are investigating and they will determine if it is a crime. It's really not looking good, though, is it?
No. I mean, I do question whether she's got the same PR advisor as Prince Andrew has, because, you know, who thought that was a good idea to go on with Laura Kuenssberg, of all people, on a prime-time political programme and think that she can get her case across. But I do think the optics of it are awful, but also the ethics of it. I mean, she spoke about going into the House of Lords and her life's been a nightmare ever since. Well, I'm sorry, but that's called democratic scrutiny, Michelle. And when you go into those types of positions, you are going to have your actions and your words scrutinised more than when you're in the private sector. So, as Ben and I were talking when the clip was playing, resign if she doesn't like it. She can easily resign, but she's not going to because of the perks, because of the fast tracks, because of the business perks that you get from being
business
in the House
opportunities.
Business opportunities. So
she's already milked for all their work.
I think she knows what she's doing.
It doesn't stack up what she said. As I said to Alex earlier, you know, when you're in a hole, stop digging. And she's digging furiously and getting deeper and deeper into trouble. Extraordinarily, she funded, or this company, what are they called, Medpro, which was owned by, or had very close links to her husband, Doug Barrowman. You know, I mean, just to remind people of the story, or the allegations, I wish they, was that she used her position and her contacts to go to the government and say, I know this company that my husband's very close to that can make you PPE, and if you could just give us £200 million, that would be great. And apparently the company Medpro made a £60 million profit, all of which is not a good look. So she makes this documentary to exonerate them, which was frankly laughable. A lot of experts who were on that documentary are now furious because they were never told that she was funding, or Medpro were funding this documentary, so it's inherently biased. And then she goes on to the BBC and says, you know, I was trying to protect my family. Well, Ben, I mean that's fine, but think about it. In what way does lying about the PPE connection, the Medpro connection, protect her family?
It's like Sopranos.
It doesn't, does it?
When I was a very young man, a good friend of mine, who was also a peer, a chap called Malcolm Pearson, you might know him.
I know Malcolm,
Alex, yeah. Lord Pearson of Rannoch, said to me, the greatest ally you ever have in life is the truth. And that is absolutely the truth. No lie can ever get close to the truth, because eventually a lie gets found out, like she has been, and you are utterly and totally discredited. Nothing she says now can be taken seriously, because it could just be another lie. She's a self-admitted liar, and there's no coming back from that in any domain, whether it's in public office, private business, your family, or any social circle.
Yeah, Leon, she's not lying to protect her family. She didn't lie to protect her family. She lied to protect herself and her husband. That everybody knows that.
Is there not a bigger story here, though, Leon? I mean, as I alluded to earlier, this isn't the only situation, is it, where the Conservative Party have been seen to, during the pandemic, give contracts to mates. And what we have learned as a result of this particular story is that there was a call-out, actually, from the party to donors, to peers, to MPs. We didn't have any PPE. Our stocks and supplies had just disappeared into thin air, as Matt Hancock found out as soon as we needed it. Nurses and doctors having to put bin bags over their faces and things like that. And they turned around and said, desperately help. And a load of people who donated to the party or were connected to the party said, actually, we can get our mitts on this stuff. But it turned out very lucrative for them. I mean, where should we point the finger of blame? You can't necessarily blame the government for saying we need PPE now. Who's got it? But it doesn't. It's not a good look, is it? When it's all your mates in the party who then make millions of pounds profit.
It isn't. And I think we were, if we cast our minds back, we were on this sort of wartime footing where everyone was meant to be all hands on deck. What have you got to help? Can you help us? But the problem is you've now got these individuals making millions on top of that. And I do remember I was working in Westminster at the time when the pandemic just started, and there was loads of businesses, not necessarily linked to the Conservative Party as far as I was aware, but loads of businesses repurposing their gin distillery to make hand sanitizer. And OK, that may well have been very worthy of them, but I think ultimately they're thinking we can make a quick buck here because quite clearly the proper procurement process isn't going to be followed because it has to be done quickly. And I think that goes down to the fundamental mishandling of the pandemic at the very beginning, where we didn't have a plan, we weren't sure what this virus was, we weren't sure how to tackle it, and ultimately it led to millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions overall, of taxpayers' money being wasted. And I think
billions.
that is one of the biggest scandals of the pandemic.
Didn't Turkey fly in a load of PPE for us? I remember Turkey sort of like an aid parcel. Quite extraordinary.
But Doug Barrowman, her husband, claimed in this interview with Laura Kuenssberg yesterday on the BBC that at some point he was approached by a senior government official stroke member and asked if he could cough up some cash. The National Crime Agency could be called off his case. I frankly don't even believe that.
Well, you can't believe anything they say now,
Exactly.
can you? That's the problem with lying. But before we
you
go,
lie once and then,
once you lied. That's it. But before we leave this topic, let's not forget there was another very prominent, now recently elevated Tory peer, who was also up to some very questionable behaviour during the pandemic, promoting his company for coronavirus loans when it was on the brink of bankruptcy, and then it eventually went bankrupt. Can you think who I...
Remind us, Ben.
Yeah.
Because
Lord
if
Cameron
anyone-
of Chipping Norton,
Oh, Lord
who is now
Spadeface.
our Foreign Secretary.
No, you got the name wrong, Ben. What's his name?
Lord Spadeface.
Lord Spade.
That's the official moniker on this programme. Yeah.
That's what she calls
But you know, he was part of all of that. When he was in office, he said it's repugnant for those who were in office to leave and then lobby the government. That's precisely what he did for the lucrative kind of free cash that was being handed out at that time. And let's also not forget, Lord Agnew resigned his ministerial position in the Treasury because of the wanton, all corruption is, the rampant corruption.
Rampant, I think is the
rampant
word,
corruption that was going on. That was was it March 2022, I think he
I
resigned.
think I'm right in saying that the government actually handed out billions in
yeah.
PPE contracts, much of which came to absolutely nothing.
And loans.
People were forming companies, taking the money and then dissolving the company.
Yeah.
I know somebody who did it.